To Utah, where we're in verdict watch in the fugitive sex offender trial of Nicholas Rossi. Jurors have been deliberating for about 3 hours now. Rossi is accused of raping 2 women in 2008, then escaping to Europe. 13 years later, he was arrested in Scotland under another name and then extradited back to Utah. The 2 cases are being tried separately. The first one is underway in Salt Lake City. That's this one. The other one is set for September in Orem, Utah. Now, Rossi faces up to 5 years in prison if convicted on this felony rape charge. The victim claims that Rossi raped her when she told him their relationship was over. However, it wasn't reported until she saw Rossi on the news in 2021. And then Utah has no statute of limitations for rape. And remember, we're not allowed to mention the names of the accusers. So as we wait the verdict, we're going to catch you up on some of the best testimony in the trial. We're going to begin here with a former prosecutor for Salt Lake County who was the first to take on the case against Rossi.
The next one is number 36, State versus Rossi, 6768. Are you Mr. Rossi? Are you Mr. Rossi? Is that a yes? I'm having a hard time. Restate what he said. Having a really hard time hearing him.
My name is Arthur. My name is Arthur Knight.
I can't hear. You want to have him state his name and date of birth?
Yeah, we can't hear him at all. Can you ask him, can you please state your name and date of birth?
Take it a little closer. My name is Arthur Knight Gray. My date of birth is 22nd of the 11th, 1986.
Okay,
I think we're having a problem with understanding who this person is.
This is not number 36.
Your Honor, we've known him as Nicholas Rossi, but he's in his name as Arthur Knight.
That's one of the AKAs, it looks like. We're having a really is it July 11th, 1987?
No, lady, it's 22nd of November, 1986.
You're on the 2nd of November, 1986.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, Tamara Vasquez for the state. This individual has been extradited, and he has not admitted his name or birth date accurately, and so I don't think we're going to be successful on that today either. It's also known as...
Objection, my lady. That is complete hearsay, and I would ask your ladyship that the prosecution should cause for why they...
Were you able to hear that audio okay over the speakers?
Yes.
Okay. So at that hearing, well, let me ask this first. Do you see today in the courtroom the person who that day was saying that that we heard speaking on the video?
Yes.
Could you tell us where is he sitting? Something that he's wearing?
Yes, he's sitting over there, and he's got black glasses, a black suit, and a multicolored tie, but it's a dark tie, white shirt with a beard.
May the record reflect that she's identified the defendant?
The record will so reflect.
Okay. And so just help us a little bit with the audio. What was he saying his name was?
He was saying his name was Arthur Knight, and I believe Brown.
Did you hear the judge ask him whether his date of birth was July 11th of 1987?
Yes, I did hear that.
And how did he respond to that?
Well, initially she asked what his name was and date of birth. The first time he stated Arthur Knight Brown, and then he said the 22nd day of the 11th of 1986. Then she did ask him what his name was, and she actually gave a different date of birth, the July 11th, 1980. I can't remember, 7, and he said that was not his date of birth.
Okay. Would you, how would you characterize the accent he was speaking with that day?
Objection, speculation, relevance.
I'll allow her to answer the question.
There was it was kind of an attempt at a British accent dialect. The words to my lady, my ladyship. Again, the reference towards the, as I think I already kind of did it, but it was the 22nd of the 11th of, so it was an attempt at what it seemed like a British dialect to me.
So at the hearing on March 8th of 2024, was he still speaking in a similar accent?
Yes.
And did he make any requests of the judge that day?
Yes, there was a request made that he be referred to Mr. Knight.
Did you attend any other hearings on that case, on this case, before you changed jobs?
No.
I have just a moment. Sure. Nothing further, thank you.
All right, so once he was arrested in Scotland, brought back to appear, he was still trying to act like he was not that person, and he was actually someone born, I think in Ireland is what he was claiming, and had lived for a long time in Scotland. All right, we're going to skip ahead now to more best testimony of this week, including that of a detective. Now, he investigated the sexual assault of Rossi's ex-girlfriend.
As a result of this press release, did somebody reach out to you?
That is correct.
Who reached out to you?
So I was notified through the Utah County Attorney's Office that an individual by the name of, whom I knew as, wished to talk to me about an experience that she had had with Nicholas Rossi.
Okay. And once you got, I guess, that contact with this, what did you do?
So I conducted an interview with her.
What's the purpose of conducting an interview with somebody alleging a crime?
Well, it's a part of the process to, it served two purposes. One, it was to provide her an opportunity to tell her experience, and then it was also for her to provide information that I could look at, that I could follow up with, or see what I had information-wise.
All right. So I'd like to kind of go through a little bit of that. Did you ultimately interview?
Yes.
And then did she give you a narrative or a report about what had occurred to her?
Yes.
Okay. And who was she telling you this incident had occurred between? Her and whom else?
Nicholas Rossi.
Okay. Did she describe to you how they met?
They had met online in Craigslist.
Okay. And then were you able to verify, either through her or other means, the process of how they would have met over Craigslist?
Yeah, through her, she provided some details that I hadn't previously seen.
Well, and what was that?
We've seen an example of it. It was that way back. I was able to replicate what she had done, but her video covered the whole thing, so I just took that.
All right. And is that specifically Exhibit 3?
Yes, I believe so.
We'll just pull it up. Is that State's Exhibit 3? Is that the video of the way back that she provided to you?
Yes.
Why is this significant to you in your investigation?
It provides the timeline for me.
What do you mean?
Well, as I previously stated, I had already been investigating it for at least a year and a half up to that point. And so I had come across her name prior to this. I just didn't know the context, and I had gaps in information. So by her coming forward and giving me stuff like this, I was able to fill in those blanks and again, look at how it fit within this whole scheme.
All right. And by coming across her name previously in your investigation, you're referring to the civil complaint where she sued him for the rings. Is that
That is correct.
Okay. And I'm going to show you what has been marked for identification as Stakes Exhibit 29. What is Stakes Exhibit 29?
Well, this is a certification of records from, it looks like Morgan Jewelers, and it's also of what I believe is States Exhibit 5, the application for credit.
All right, we're going to step aside here, folks, for a quick break. When we return, the detective talks about bringing the alleged victim back to the home of Nicholas Rossi during the course of their investigation and the ever-changing details in Rossi's stories, including his fake names and birthdays. Stay with us here on your front row seat to justice. Welcome back. We'll have more in the fugitive sex offender trial in just a moment. First, I want to bring in our guest for this hour. Joining us to discuss is Los Angeles-based criminal defense attorney Silva Megerditchian. Silva, great to see you as always. Thank you so much for joining me tonight on the show. And I want to start with this idea of what could be problematic for the state. So the first thing you look at and you say, okay, this was something that happened back in 2008. That could be a problem. Second, it took her maybe 13 years, I think it was, to come forward and claim that this happened. But the thing that I think is the biggest problem for the state is that back then when she decided not to come forward and they tried to explain it, the mom took the stand and talked about it, she didn't have a problem going into small claims court trying to get some money that he owed her. So one could argue that she didn't have any problem going and trying to get the money, but for this, which one would think was either just as or more important, she didn't want to go to court. I know these are change times. People understand why people don't report, but I think that might be a bit of a problem.
It always is, Michael. First of all, always a pleasure. I adore you, my friend. You know that. Look, rape cases, Michael, whenever there is a period of time, for defense attorneys, this is what we really go to. Because that period of time, even though the statute allows that you can report a rape regardless of how much time has gone by. For us, it's one of our strongest defenses, because what we're going to say is it was so traumatic, it was so dangerous, it was so violent, but you waited and you were in fear, but 13 years of fear, or you blocked it out for 13 years, but you had the wherewithal to go for the money. But the issue is, if you have any type of victims expert, they will explain the psychology and the mental issues that happen to victims, and the victim will also explain it. I mean, we saw this a lot with the P. Diddy case, where there is a thought process that they have where they're maybe too afraid to even come forward to claim a criminal defense case against the person. You know, there are psychological reasons why victims don't want their attacker to face jail or prison. And there are studies about this as well. They're so afraid of being treated also as they wanted it or that they were at fault. It's very difficult to testify as a victim when you're a legitimate victim. So there are arguments both sides, regardless.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because one of the other issues here was the fact that they were in a relationship, right? It was this whirlwind romance. She claims that she was trying to break it off, and that's when this incident happened. But when she went to tell her parents, they didn't really seem to take any action. As a matter of fact, I think she testified that her father intimated that she might have done something to bring it on, or in that sense. Do you think that's still an issue in this day and age? Again, they're a different generation than her. But again, this was back 2008. We've learned so much since then. We've come much more forward as far as understanding victims of this type of violence. But is that a mindset that could be a problem for someone on the jury in this case?
And you said it beautifully, Michael, for someone on the jury. If you have an old school thought process where victims don't necessarily have to be believed because they have to do things a certain way, and if the father doesn't believe her, then why should we? Then yeah, there's going to be an issue. But the one great thing about the Me Too movement, it really did educate the public about the psychology of rape victims and why people who are victims wait so long. I will say in this case, you have a defendant who has issues. I mean, the fact that this guy, evaded, he went away, different names, he looks shady, which is not a legal term, but I think the public understands. I think that balances out a little bit when you see what the credibility issue is going to come up. Will the jury believe the credibility of the victim, or whether or not the defendant testifies or not? The fact that he ran away with different names, different aliases, it just doesn't look good looking from the outside. He's a very troubled defendant. There's no two ways about that. That might balance out a little bit, that this isn't the perfect victim per se.
Yeah, and he decided not to testify in this case, so that choice could come back to haunt him. So we'll have to see. All right, Silva, stand by. I want to take folks back inside the courtroom for the best of Detective Coates' testimony.
So first of all, you talk about the Pinnacle Apartments.
Yes.
I'm showing you what has been admitted as State's Exhibit 4. These apartments. In your research, or I guess in your follow-up with narrative about the Pinnacle Apartments, why was this location significant to you?
Based on the information I had, that's where he was living at during this time.
So aside from what told you about the Pinnacle Apartments, were you able to confirm that Mr. Rossi lived at these apartments back in 2008?
I was.
And how were you able to do that?
I was through a government document where it was a reported theft.
All right. And we were here when Eric testified, right?
Yes.
All right. Is the document that you saw, the report relating to the theft that Eric talked about?
That is correct.
Okay. Did you do any other follow-up, interview anyone that lived in these apartments or otherwise to confirm that Mr. Rossi had in fact lived there as well?
Yes.
And who did you speak with?
So I spoke with, his name is Dan Sterling. I spoke with him at that time. There were some people that had visited the apartment during that time, and I spoke to them, and they just corroborated that information.
All right. And Eric was also one of those individuals that you spoke with?
He was.
Okay. Now, also talked to you about another location, the Blair Street address. Did you take her there immediately, or when did that take place?
That was approximately a week later after the initial interview.
Tell us about that. How did that, I guess, locating of this house, how did that take place?
So had come forward with the information that we provided in this application and the way back. And she also clarified that she had made a mistake, that she had originally told me that she thought it occurred in January of 2009, but corrected herself, saying that it had happened prior in December. She just couldn't recall exactly when.
Okay, I'd like to get to that in a minute, but as far as taking her to this house, how did that take place?
So then when we were talking, she had mentioned that she thought it was in South Salt Lake. However, I had observed, again, other government documents where police had gone to this address listing an individual by the name of Brett Cowley and Nicholas Rossi living at this address. And again, that was in my prior investigation. So I suspected that this, given that timeline of Pinnacle Apartments to the Blair Street address, this would be the most likely location. So I suggested we drive to that. So I drove her there.
Walk us through that. So you get in the car. Is anyone else with you?
Yeah, we had a victim advocate.
Originally, when told you that the assault had occurred at this location, that she had originally told you it was in January.
Correct.
Did she come back to you and correct that?
She did.
Tell us about that.
So again, it was our initial conversation. She had said it was January of 2009 was her recollection. And then within a week, she had come back and said, no, I was mistaken, and it would have occurred before that. And that was consistent based on what she had described with the filing of the small claims.
All right, and I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 11. Is this the small claims report?
Yes.
All right. If you can go ahead and step down, why is this significant to you in terms of the timeline?
So again, going back to trying to build out the timeline of events, I looked at the 12/24 date because that's when it was filed. And she had said that she had filed the small claims after this had happened.
Go ahead, Nancy. Did she provide you with anything else that helped to her, at least in her mind, establish the timeline? For example, did she talk about changing her numbers or anything like that?
Oh, yes. Yes, she during our interview, she had provided copies of her cell phone records, which I had turned into the discovery, that she had changed her number at least 2 times.
And I'm approaching what has been marked and admitted as State's Exhibit 10A and 10B. Are those the documents that she provided you?
Yes.
All right. And specifically as it relates to Exhibit 10A, why is Exhibit 10A significant to you in terms of the timeline?
Because again, it provides a date in which it gives better reference as to when things may or may not have happened. And in this case, as defense has brought up earlier, there was a change around December 13th.
As it relates to State's Exhibit 6 and the time of the assault, did tell you about how many times she had been to that location?
My recollection, she said she had been there 2 times.
Okay. What about State's Exhibit 4? How many times did she say she had been there?
I want to say at least 3 times.
Okay. At some point in time, did you have an occasion to participate in an interview with Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
When did that take place?
That was January 5th, 2023.
If you can kind of tell us what was the nature of that conversation and what you recall from that.
So, well, at the time, he was going by Arthur Knight. When I went to visit him, I met a gentleman. The gentleman seated at the defense table, and he was speaking in what appeared to be a British accent. As we asked him the allegations that pertain to him, so we had since filed his case. We had the case with, and we asked him as they pertain to him. All he would say, he mentioned that he asked if we were referring to Nicholas, and I think he, as I recall, he said Rossi and Rossi. He mispronounced it and said it twice.
And as it relates to Nicholas Rossi, we heard, I guess, the audio of Mr. Rossi indicating that he was Arthur Knight, provided a date of birth.
That is correct.
Did you ever ascertain when Nicholas Rossi's real date of birth was?
Oh, his date of birth I knew fairly early on, as that July 11th of '87.
Okay. So the date of birth that he gave under the name of Arthur Knight of the 22nd of the 11th month, 1986, is not the accurate date of birth for Mr. Rossi.
Yes, that's correct.
In October of 2024, were you present at a hearing in Utah County?
I was.
What took place at that time?
So at that hearing, the individual took the stand, Mr. Rossi took the stand, where he then changed his statement to that his real name, asking to be called, I believe, Nicholas Megerditchian.
All right, we're going to squeeze in a break here. When we come back, the defense questions Detective Coates about the conversations that he had with the other alleged victim and why they weren't recorded. Rest of testimony continues in the fugitive sex offender trial, so keep it here on CourtTV. Welcome back to CourtTV Live. I'm Michael Ayala. We're back in Utah for day 3 of testimony in the fugitive sex offender trial. Now, he is accused of raping 2 women in 2008. Now, he was then fled the country, and he faked his own death. Now, he was found and arrested in Scotland 13 years later. Police say he claimed to be an Irish orphan who had never set foot in America. Now, Nicholas Rossi declined to testify, and his defense team decided not to present a case. The jury is currently deliberating the case now, and of course, we're going to bring you any updates as we get them into our newsroom. Right now, I want to go back to the best testimony of the week. We're still hearing from Detective Coates. He is now on cross.
The case involving, you get a call from January 14th, 2022?
That sounds right.
Okay. And to your knowledge, Mr. Megerditchian was not in the United States at that time, right?
That is correct.
He had, in fact, not been in the United States since like 2017, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So to your knowledge, he had remained in the United States 2008, 2009, 2010, correct?
Correct.
And it wasn't until January 14th of 2022 that you became aware of.
Yes.
Okay. You were unable to find a conversation between you and involving her showing you how to use the Wayback Machine, right?
Have I showed her how to use the Wayback Machine?
No.
Or where she showed me?
She showed you how to use the Wayback Machine.
No.
Prior to 3741.
No.
Correct. But in that conversation at the timestamp 3741, that is not anybody showing anybody the Wayback Machine, correct?
No.
Why don't you read it into the record?
Do you want me to read it out loud?
Sure.
It says 12:09 p.m., 3741, Agent Coates. Okay, I won't hold you to that. I mean, I understand. However, you may have some history in your emails even from that time. It's potential. I don't know if you'd be willing to kind of go back in the Wayback Machine and take a peek.
So does that mean that you had a conversation about the Wayback Machine prior to this phone call happening?
Nope.
So where did you get Wayback Machine from?
Peabody and Sherman.
Sure, fair enough. So you were using that as sort of like a idiom, essentially?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So really what I'm getting at, Agent Coates, is the conversation between you and involving the Wayback Machine is not recorded. Or to your knowledge, you don't recall if you recorded it or
Yeah, no, not the way you're describing it. Not in this one, no.
All right, quickly, as far as I can tell, the Wayback Machine is really sort of an archive. It's a legal archive machine that has documents and things of that nature. It sounds like he was just using it, as you said, as some sort of idiom. Didn't really mean the actual Wayback Machine. All right. Coming up on CourtTV, the heat is on as the defense team grills Detective Coates about more interviews that weren't recorded and attacks his training or lack thereof in conducting trauma victim interviews. Cross-examination of Detective Coates continues in the fugitive sex offender trial straight ahead. Keep it here on CourtTV.
All right, Eric. So you stated that you flew down here from Tacoma, Washington to come testify at this trial?
Vancouver, Washington.
Sorry, Vancouver, Washington. The state paid for you to fly down here, though, right?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't pay for it out of your own money?
No.
Okay. You were subpoenaed to be here today by them?
Yes.
Okay. So I think I'll just kind of cut to the chase here, man. So you do not like Nick. That is fair to say, right?
Very fair.
That was the former roommate of defendant Nicholas Rossi, and as you can tell, it was not a match made in heaven. And we are in Utah watching the best testimony of the day in the fugitive sex offender trial. The jury has been deliberating now for almost 4 hours. A bit surprising to me. Let's go back in for more of the cross-examination of Detective Coates.
At the end of the first interview that you have with you tell her that you're proud of her, right?
I believe I did.
You tell her that you believe her?
I do.
And you told her that she's not alone in this, right?
I did.
Okay. You also tell her you know that this happened.
Yes.
You also had an opportunity to interview parents, right?
Yes.
You interviewed Tammy Sadler, right?
Correct.
You did not record that interview?
I did not.
And how did you get that information?
That was on the county recorder, if I recall right.
Okay.
Because some of the photos that I had grabbed were from the county recorder's office.
The testimony that gave about Nick putting his hands in her face during their car ride back to Blair Street. Do you recall that testimony yesterday?
I do recall that.
Is that the first time you'd heard that?
It doesn't strike me one way or the other.
Sure. Did you put that in your report?
I don't recall that in my report.
Do you have your report with you?
No.
Would seeing it refresh your memory about what's in it?
Yes, please.
Have you been trained in trauma-informed victim interviewing?
I have.
And part of the reason you get trained is to not inject bias into your conversations with people who are saying that they've been assaulted, right?
That references more towards child interviews, but yeah, I would agree with your statement generally.
Sure, but even if we're not talking about child witnesses, you're talking about any person, you want to make sure you're getting the most accurate information, correct?
That is correct.
So you want to make sure to have your interviews be as free from bias as humanly possible, correct?
As much as you can, yeah.
Right. But in your interviews with like you repeatedly affirm her statements, right?
I did.
You say that you believe her multiple times, correct?
I did.
She's not in this alone, right?
Nope.
Moving on to the Blair Street address. So you noted that you actually noted to the last known address that you had for my client was the 853 Blair Street, right?
Eventually, yeah.
And you got that from a government document, correct?
Correct.
And that document is from January 21st of 2009, right?
Correct.
And so that actually physically puts my client at the Blair Street address, January 21st, 2009, right?
Yes.
There are no other documents that placed him in the Blair Street address other than that government document, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
Right. So there are no documents that you are aware of that place Mr. Alaverdian in the Blair Street address in December of 2008, right?
No, not that I'm aware of.
All right, Detective, I want to draw your attention to the Blair Street address. Were you here when testified yesterday?
Yes.
She was asked on cross-examination about whether or not there were bricks on the home. Do you recall that?
Vaguely.
Okay. Do you recall during direct examination she never mentioned the bricks or anything like that?
I do not recall that.
But cross-examination, she was asked whether there was bricks on the home. Do you vaguely recall that? Do you recall what her response was?
I don't.
Okay. Now, to be clear, you had an interview or, I guess, a ride-along with back in 2022?
Yes.
Okay. I'm showing you what has been marked for identification, States Exhibit 30. 30? What is States Exhibit 30? And if you need to read it and just kind of look over it quickly to refresh your memory what that is, go ahead.
This is a transcript of a conversation between myself and...
Okay, so what I'd like you to do is turn to page 9. I hand wrote the numbers there at the bottom.
I do appreciate that.
Beginning at timestamp 2317. Is this the conversation you had about the house?
Yes.
I want you to read out loud, starting at 2317 and read through 2357.
It was more in the middle of the street. I'm trying to remember. It had some bricks on it, but that was like so long ago. I don't know. Speaker 2, bricks? You mean like those in the Speaker 1? No, like on the house, and it was further back. Yeah, I do remember there were trees though.
So she seems to quabble about maybe bricks, maybe not, but is certain there was a tree.
Correct.
I'm showing you what has been marked and admitted as defenses exhibits 2 and 3. What are those?
These were the previously discussed Google history photos of this neighborhood, 853 Blair Street.
The house immediately to the right of 853. Does that house have bricks on it?
The one dated 2007 appears to have brick.
And what exhibit number is that?
This is Defendant's Exhibit 2.
Okay. And to be fair, the house 853 does have rocks surrounding the area, correct?
Correct.
And how many times did say she had been there?
I believe it was 2 times.
Nothing further.
Okay. You can step down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next witness for the state.
Your Honor, the state rests.
All right, still with us to discuss, Los Angeles-based criminal defense attorney Silva Megerditchian. Silva, I want to know what you thought about the cross. As you saw there, it really forced the redirect to go into some of the details and why there might have been some issues. And they went around some of the problems with the details when she was giving her story. But she also talked about this possible bias and how he would affirm or affirmed, her story. What do you make of that? Is that problematic?
Oh, absolutely, Michael. For a defense attorney, we eat that up. Jurors don't like that. Don't assume. And you are literally recording her statements. You shouldn't appear to be completely on her side until it's fully investigated. It lowers his legitimacy as a neutral party who's analyzing the facts. We all know there are legitimate victims, and we also know there are illegitimate victims. It is the officer's job to investigate fully. The other thing I don't like, and it's also a very questionable police practice, you want to record everything. There is no reason not to record. It doesn't matter what year it is. Recording statements is elemental, absolutely necessary. And as a defense attorney, if it's not there, I am absolutely questioning the officer's ability to be good at his job. It just shows a lack of really following protocol within your department. And also, it makes the case weaker for the prosecution. There's no two ways about that.
Yeah, and clearly this jury's struggling a little bit with something. This is not a case, based on the way I saw it, that would take 4 hours for this jury to come back. But they've been out 4 hours. I want to talk quickly about his decision not to testify. The reason I said it was, I don't know about that choice, is because he went on the run, but not necessarily because of these rape charges. Apparently there was a fraud charge, so that's problematic as well. But at the end of the day, he said he went on the run because he had credible reports that his life was in danger. I'm wondering if he needed to get on the stand and explain some of this stuff, and that might have helped him.
You know what, Michael, the truth of the matter is the defense attorney is a very good defense attorney. You can tell in the manner that she cross-examines. She probably questioned him and made the decision along with him not to testify. Now, we don't know. The client always has the right to make the decision himself, and we must follow through. We only make recommendations. But it could be that maybe he didn't appear credible to her. It also could be that she thought this case is so circumstantial. As we said in our first segment, the fact that so much time had gone by, these are all issues that she thinks she might be able to win without him having to testify.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I thought she's done a fantastic job representing him in this case. All right, Silva, as always, thank you so much for being with me on the show. We will see you again real soon. Folks, stick around, because coming up next, you know what happens. We're going to review the 3 things that we've learned today in the cases that we've been covering from coast to coast right here on Court TV.